Good morning. In this video, I'm going to talk all about money, my views on it, my beliefs, why I used to care about it so much, and why I don't even track anything related to income anymore. Because I've come free with money. And no, I don't own a yacht. No, I didn't win the lottery. I just became very, very free with what I do for a career, stopped attaching money to my success, and became a happier, healthier individual as a result. So I'm going to do this all whilst cooking a beautiful breakfast for myself. If you don't know this about me, I do not track any single calories. I haven't for over 2 years now. It used to lead me to binge eating spirals, and it doesn't anymore. All because I've been able to understand how I can eat in a way where I'm not addicted to numbers and weighing scales. Cool life it is indeed. Anyway, let's dive in and let me give you the gloss. What an intro. Okay, so maybe firstly, it's important that I give you a bit of context. Growing up, we used to live in a very nice house in a very nice place in Surrey, in England. Now I live in Australia, if you're wondering. And money wasn't a problem back then. My dad used to work a really good job. My mum didn't even work, and she had 4 or 5 kids. You know, we were very well off. We weren't rich, but we were well off is what I would say. And then a few things happened. I was probably 10, 12 years old, and money started to go. Dad wasn't working anymore, and what that meant was my mum was now the breadwinner. She was working twice, 2 jobs at one point. She was working for the health service, the ambulance service, but she was also doing nannying roles and kind of cleaning jobs and stuff like that. And I think at that age, that was really when I was able to understand the importance of money. That's when I really started to put a lot of attention on it and go, hey, crap, I can't afford, or I'm not allowed to go on the school trip with my friends because we can't afford it. And it was moments like that where I realized just how powerful money can be as this resource of allowing you to do stuff. Like, there's so many opportunities that people miss out on that they want to do, all because they don't have the money to do it. They can't afford it, which is a really sad reality. And then what happened was, after I started realizing the value and the importance of money, I started selling sweets. And this is actually when my binging struggles really started, because I would buy these bulk packets of sweets with this intention to sell, and sometimes kind of want them so badly that I would just binge eat my own supply. I would be like the drug dealer that kind of sniffed his own drugs, basically. And I laugh at that now, but it was a time at which, you know, I think I became the business savvy mind I am now. And it was the start of that ultimately. And that's when I really started to see, hey, like when I start owning my own money, it buys me some level of freedom. I was allowed to start buying clothes I wanted, for example. I remember I was really addicted to Kanye West back in the day. We're talking 15, 16 years old. He released The Life of Pablo, a new album. And there was this t-shirt that went on sale, and it was like, I don't know, man, like 60 or 80 quid, which is like over $100 over here. And I bought it, and I was like, I've worked so hard for this. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that I was able to do that. And that's what was so fulfilling. Working and making money myself off my own back, and then spending that money on what I wanted. And that's why when I have kids, I'm never going to give them everything and anything. I'm going to help them out financially in certain ways, but you know, that's probably going to be, I'm going to create a safe environment for them, for a nice house, but that's going to be because I've got that for me. And ultimately, I don't want to silver spoon my kids. I don't want to give them everything and anything, because my value of money came from me working hard for it and then me actually spending that money. That extended all through my late teens. I used to work at a fish and chip shop. Funny enough, that is how I got my severe acne for a few years, and only realized when I left that fish and chip shop that my acne would go. So, hey, if you're struggling with bad skin, leave fast food places, because the oils in that shops are basically ruining your skin. That's a bit of a sidetrack. But yeah, I started working at a fish and chip shop from 16, and I just kind of engaged in part-time casual work from the age of 16, really. Like, I was always kind of doing something on the side until I worked full-time in work, and that was post my university studies. Even when I was in uni, I was working a part-time job and I was getting money on the side. So long story short, I've always been making money, I've always been saving money, but my approach to money is very different now, because right now I make money, of course, but I don't really save or I'm not as frugal as I used to be. How I used to be was like, my mindset was, how do I get to a point where I do not need to work anymore, right? I don't need to worry about money. And my opinion on this was, I need to save every penny. Like, I kid you not, guys, when I used to work in London, this is when I used to work in my full-time role back in my early 20s, I used to like only allow myself to buy a coffee out once every Friday. It was like my Friday treat, have a coffee out, because hey, my office had a coffee machine and, you know, boom, I was able to kind of just have one there. It was kind of like when your mum says like, oh, hey, can we go get McDonald's or something like that? She's like, oh no, we have food at home. You know, there's chips in the freezer type vibe. And it's interesting because it wasn't until I started kind of just hating, you know, living like that. Like, I felt like all I was doing was saving a lot of money for what? Like, I had some, you know, tens of thousands saved up as a 21-year-old kid. It was going into the stock market and whatever. But then I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? Like, am I just saving this till I'm 40, 50 years old and then I just live off of it? Like, what a boring life that is. And it wasn't until I started actually getting into a financial podcast, like a financial investors insight podcast, that I listened to this one guy who actually told me something that I never expected I would hear from a financial dude. He was like, look, I don't think you should start saving your money and suffering as a result, like decreasing your quality of life, saying no to coffee, saying no to holidays, whatnot. What you should instead do is try to make more money so that you can do more, and then you can still save as much. So it was that kind of paradigm shift for me where I started seeing money as more of an abundant thing, where I stopped seeing it as such a scarce resource where I had to save every penny, and I actually started living. And in this time, I went and I actually quit my job. I traveled around the world for 6 months. I did further travels for a few weeks before this as well. I now live in Australia. Like, so much has changed when I started seeing money as this resource which I could leverage to enjoy life a lot more. And I think the hard part is, how do I make more money? You know, I think that's probably what you're watching this video thinking to yourself. And this is where things kind of got interesting for me, was because I used to chase money so much. Like, my past career in corporate was in sales, was in recruitment. It was very, very money focused. You know, there would literally be a whiteboard with everyone's names, who is making the most amount of money for the business. Like, it was like, I felt like I was in Wolf of Wall Street at times. It was pretty hectic. And it would be, for me, I would attach my happiness to money. Like, if I didn't hit top in the leaderboard, if I wasn't bringing home a lot of money this month or this quarter, I would be upset. Like, it would be my thing. How much money I brought in was how happy I felt at the end of the week or the end of the month. And it drove me insane. Like, it drove me insane. It drove me to the point of, you know, using food again as coping mechanism, binge eating, for example, being poor in my relationships as a partner back in the day. And it wasn't until I guess I started doing what I love as a career, and I stopped attaching my monetary success as my status, my like happiness point, that actually more money came into my life. And what I mean by this is, like, I quit my corporate job, I went traveling, I actually came over to Australia to work in the same industry, and then I quit that 6 months into Australia to launch this business, which I do now, which is nutrition coaching, which is working with individuals who have maybe disordered relationships with food, helping them lose weight, and kind of like getting them to a healthier, happier place with training programs, accountability, support, whatnot. But anyway, I started that business with no intention of it making a lot of money. That was my pure passion project. Like, I do not feel like I do a day of work anymore. Like, what's really interesting right now is I'm at this point in the business where we've got 7, 8 employees in the background, and nobody except me works with clients. And that is the most anti-business decision that any founder can make. A founder wants to remove key man risk. They want to not be the face of the business. They don't want to be the person that kind of runs the show. But the tricky thing is, I love running the show. I love working with clients one-on-one. And ultimately, if I didn't, I wouldn't feel as happy about my role as I did. And I know this because I actually outsourced clients delivery. I had 2 support coaches who did my role that worked with clients. And I hated it. I didn't feel connected to clients. I didn't feel right in kind of like the fact that I was kind of getting them into my program. All they've seen is me, and then boom, they work with someone else. Like, that didn't feel ethically right to me. And what it means is, like, I'm capped for time. And that means I spend more time on client delivery. I spend less time on sales and marketing, and we bring less clients in. But ultimately, I don't care about that, because I'm at a point where financially I'm okay. I don't need to worry about going to Kohl's and spending 90 bucks on whatever, or buying a coffee every single day. I bought a coffee every single day for like the last year and a bit, and it's my favorite part of the day. Like, I get to go out, I get to socialize, I get to go on a walk in the morning, I get to speak to my baristas and have a chat with them and see these cute dogs in the dog park and just like stroke them at times and smile at them. Like, it brings me so much happiness, and that is not what I would have achieved if I was saving every penny and just going back and forth to my office and being really finite with my money. And, you know, I've kind of got to this point where my view on money now is like, if you want to do things, like, just go do them. And who cares what you've got in the bottom line? Who cares what that savings amount is? Because at the end of the day, like, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to, you know, die, and it doesn't matter if you have $1 million in the account, because what are you going to do? Give it to your kids? Like, and what impact is that going to have on them? You know? Yes, maybe it's going to change their life trajectory entirely, but also, does it teach them the value of money if they just inherit a mill? Is it going to make them spoiled brats? Like, it's so interesting. But as someone that's been on two sides of the fence, or multiple sides of the fence, I've been you know, in tough positions with money. I've been in, you know, environments where money doesn't grow on trees, and it really, like, it capitalizes or it capsizes my opportunities and what I can do. And that was in my teens. And then I started making money, and then I started saving, and I started being so fragile and futile with money. And that, I guess, showed me the value of money, but also led to me having such a low quality of life. And I just thought, well, what is this all for? And it wasn't, again, until that I started spending more, but also making more, because I was more passionate and I was living a healthier, happier life, because I wasn't making my life a suffer and a misery by saving every penny and squinching and not allowing myself to do anything. That's when I've been able to make more money, because I'm happier and I'm able to put myself more energetically into projects and business and whatnot. So that's my view on money. You may agree, you may not agree, but I don't care. I don't care if you do, because it's my life and it's not yours, with the greatest respects. I'd love your opinion on this, though. If you have a similar opinion, if you've went through something similar, maybe put it down below. Separately to that, if you don't agree, maybe let me know, and maybe let me know why. I'd love to specifically hear from older generation. I'd love to hear if you're 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 years old, you're retired, and you know, I'd love your opinion on what I've said, and if you feel like it's correct, because ultimately I love hearing from people that are older, that are wiser than me, that have gone through life when I haven't necessarily done that before, right? I'm 26 years old. I haven't got kids. I haven't got a mortgage. I haven't got, you know, all this responsibility ultimately. And maybe my opinion will change over time. Who knows? But that is me. That is me. As for what we've made here, I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to put some salt and pepper on here in a second, don't worry about it. Eggs, these are my protein source. Avocado, these are my fat source. Carbs through the bread. And that is how I create a balanced plate. I'm probably gonna have a banana as a snack during the mid-morning. I don't tend to have a huge breakfast meal because it does make me feel a bit sluggish, so I make sure I get breakfast in, but maybe it's like 70% of what I could have, and then I have a mid-morning kind of banana as my fiber source to keep me going. And that's how I'm hitting those 4 food groups across that one meal, basically. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this little monologue, me talking about money, my views on it, my thoughts. If you agree, if you disagree, put it down below. And if you're new here and you liked what I talk about, maybe consider following for more. And yeah, if you struggle with binge eating, maybe it's going to be a really valuable channel for you as well. Take care. See ya.